In this episode, we visit the United States. We'll travel by train along the west coast of California. We'll visit Hollywood and its famous Walk of Fame. Los Angeles, the city of ultra-modern skyscrapers, is also the city that has one of the oldest, shortest railways in the world. In the Silvery Coast Starlight train, we'll travel along the beautiful coast of California. Naturally, we'll visit San Francisco with its Golden Gate Bridge. We get on the famous cable cars, and besides looking at sea lions, we'll take a look at a beautiful steam locomotive that travels around in Sacramento. Our journey starts in Los Angeles, the most popular city in the United States, visited every year by more than 50 million tourists. The city likes to call itself the entertainment capital of the world, and it certainly is that. Los Angeles owes its fame to the motion picture industry, with Hollywood and all its glamour, glitter, and movie stars to attract fans from all over the world. In 1781, a group of Spanish colonists settled here at the foot of a river. They could hardly have suspected that huge skyscrapers would once be built where their simple cottages stood. In the midst of all these modern giants, we find the Angel's Flight Railway. This almost miniature railway has been maintained for nearly 100 years. The Angel's Flight is a splendid funicular railway with two carriages connected by cable. This way, the descending carriage pulls its identical brother. Halfway, the railway tracks separate so that the carriages can pass each other. The magnificent, well-kept carriages cover a distance of only 100 meters. This undoubtedly makes Angel's Flight the shortest railway in the world. Besides being a city of film stars, Los Angeles is also a city of business people. The city originally began to grow after they found oil here. The oil barons still live here. To escape the rush of the city, a lot of rich people flee to one of the beautiful beaches of Los Angeles. The Santa Monica Freeway is a busy highway to the seaside place of the same name. With its lovely climate and wide beaches, Santa Monica is one of Los Angeles' most popular seaside places. Instead of lying around on the beach, we continue our journey and arrive in Alameda Street, near the Union Railway Station. This Art Deco jewel dates from 1939. The construction was part of a railway expansion at the beginning of the century. Now the station is one of the city's most important historical buildings. According to many, it should have been replaced long ago, were it not for the fact that it's been serving as a model for numerous movies. Union Station is arrival and departure point for thousands of tourists. We too are here to board one of the Amtrak trains. California railways are unfortunately insignificant. Americans prefer traveling by car, and the railway magnates were especially interested in the money there was in freight transport. The American government, however, realized the public transport would increase and started its own service, Amtrak.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning and welcome aboard Amtrak train number 14, the Coast Starlight.
We travel north along the coast, on our way to San Luis Obispo. This is Amtrak's Coast Starlight, the luxury train commuting between Los Angeles and Seattle in the north. Along the coast, this train covers a distance of almost 2,000 kilometers in 38 hours. Practically the whole journey to the north, you can see the ocean from one of the observation cars. The Coast Starlight arrives in San Luis Obispo, a quite provincial town.
May I have your attention, please?
Many passengers get out here. They visit San Luis Obispo because it once was an important place for Spanish father Junipo Serra. 200 years ago, this father played an influential role in California. San Luis Obispo is a beautiful, quiet town. You won't find skyscrapers or busy freeways here. The population avoids the excitement and prefers to leave things as they are. By American standards, it's a typical bedroom community. In the city center is one of the missionary posts of Father Serra. 200 years ago, this father from Majorca was known as the man who converted the countless Indians in California. Serra built several missionary posts in the state, from where the converted Indians did their work. The mission San Luis Obispo is one of the few missionary posts that is still standing. Most of them went up in flames because of their thatched roofs. Once the roof of this post also caught fire, but the building itself was undamaged, and since the restoration is again a beautiful place. Where there's now a magnificent garden, the converted Indians once worked in the fields. Father Serra, however, was also controversial because he often employed the Indians like slaves. His missions were successful in growing fruit trees, olive trees, and grapes. Most of it has disappeared, and this glorious flower garden is all that is left. The arrival of the next Coast Starlight announces our departure from San Luis Obispo. The shiny Amtrak heads further north. We set out for San Francisco. We travel along the foothills of California's coastal range. Because these mountains are still young, the Earth's crust is still on the move because of geological actions, and this can result in earthquakes. Traveling through the grand and often uninhabitable landscape, it's hard to imagine that California is the most populated of all states in the U.S. In addition, the California population of almost 30 million provides 13% of the national income of the United States.
Want me back, and my heart is down, my head is around. I have to leave a little girl in Kingston town. Sad to say, here we are, news at 11. My heart is down, my head is spinning around. I have to leave a little girl in Kingston town.
The lovely views and the heaving of the carriages are too tiresome for some of the travelers. This really is a pity, because the view starts to get better and better while the coast starlight rumbles on undiminished. The train travels on to meet the evening, and every minute the sun shows a different color. Then suddenly the hypnotic rhythm of the train ceases. We've arrived in San Francisco, one of the most charming cities of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Oakland, Jack London Square. Smoking stop.
Does it matter? Do people have reservations?
Okay, you're in room 15 in the next car. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Situated on the Bay of San Francisco is the city of the same name. Of course, the Golden Gate Bridge immediately attracts attention. The bridge connects Northern California to the peninsula of San Francisco. The construction started in 1933 and was finished after 4 years and $35 million. It's a remarkable example of craftsmanship. The unique cable cars of San Francisco are just as famous. For more than 130 years, these trolleys have been climbing the 43 hills of the city. The hills are so steep that a heavy-laden horse cart could not climb them in former days. In 1873, a system was developed by which cables of steel run low under the streets in a closed circuit. The little cable cars just have to click in and they'll manage the steepest slope. The cable cars are inseparably connected to San Francisco. About 1980, when the authorities considered doing away with the expensive and worn-out cable system, the entire population revolted. Money was collected, and a 3-year restoration began. San Francisco underwent a kind of open-heart surgery, and ever since, the cable cars continue as good as ever. Visiting San Francisco without visiting Chinatown is unthinkable. It's a city within a city. Since 1850, the largest Asiatic community outside China has been living here. In former days, it was a district where Americans used to avoid. Chinatown was a place of opium caves, gambling joints, and Chinese gangsters. This atmosphere, of course, disappeared a whole long time ago, and today it's an exotic but very pleasant district. At the end of Hyde Street begins Lombard Street. This is not exactly a common street. Only an excellent driver can descend it, for Lombard Street has a few hairpin bends and can be considered a mountain road in the city. Fortunately, the cable cars are much less dizzying. They take us to Fisherman's Wharf. Fisherman's Wharf was once an authentic harbor where Italian fishermen landed their catches. Nowadays, it's a kind of amusement park with many tourist stores and restaurants. The hustle and bustle has not prevented a colony of sea lions from staying at Pier 39. As free as a bird. This expression certainly didn't apply to the occupants of this cliff on the Bay of San Francisco. This is Alcatraz, the most notorious prison of America, where the most dangerous criminals used to be detained. Since 1963, there are no prisoners anymore, and now the rock only serves as film scenery and an attraction for tourists. The train horn blast tells us we're leaving San Francisco at the beginning of one of California's beautiful, balmy evenings. It's almost dark when we cross the bay and leave this remarkable city behind us. The journey will take us further inland. We travel eastward and are on our way to the capital of California, Sacramento. For the last couple of miles of this journey, we transfer to the Union Pacific. The Union Pacific Railroad is an old line that runs along the Sacramento River. The steam locomotive belongs to the State Railroad Museum. The railway was built in 1863 and provided a direct connection between Sacramento and the rest of the state. In the summer months, the train travels through the beautiful landscape, especially for the tourists. The Sacramento River shows us some beautiful scenery during a journey by steam lock. Just before arrival in Sacramento, we have to cross an old vertical lift bridge. They specially built this bridge to let through the paddle steamers that are still operating here. sun is shining and the train attracts a lot of spectators when we arrive in Sacramento. The Pacific Station where we arrive dates back to the last century and is the oldest station in the city. In 1854, just 15 years after the city was built, Sacramento succeeded in becoming the capital city of California. The city owes its origin to the surrounding gold mines. In 1849, the first gold was found. Soon, many thousands of gold diggers poured in. With its many wooden houses in the center, the city still maintains something of the spirit of Wild West. The gold brought the city much wealth, especially the saloon keepers, where the gold diggers converted their finds, not into hard cash, but hard liquor. 4 of these saloon keepers used their earnings to start a railway line. These eventually became the principal railway magnates of California. A lot of the steam engines these gentlemen owned are now on view in the State Railroad Museum. This museum is the largest railway museum in the United States. As many as 21 restored locomotives and carriages are on display here. Through photographs, the museum illustrates the development of the railway line through the last century. Railway workers in California had a difficult task to fulfill. The rails had to be built through mountains, deserts, and snow-covered areas. In particular, tens of thousands of Chinese were willing to do the job for a few dollars a day. Back to the present, but with the old steam engine also somewhat back in the past, we've come to the end of this fantastic journey through California, a state that rightly calls itself one of the most unique in the United States.